Well, hey guys, how is everyone? I hope you're all well. We're going to get into this will be part 3 to our series on the little 350 Husky. Uh, so far, the views on it are so. It's just one of those deals. I hope after spending all this time on it, that it's one of those video series that get views over time. I've got several of them on the channel. Some do better than others, but I guess a lot of it all just depends on what saw you're messing with and whether it's been said and done a million times before or not. But where we are at on this today is we need to come up with a game plan of what we're going to do. I've started turning down a new mandrel just to do these 45mm cylinders. I'm using Delrin. I've not used it before in the past. I'll say it does turn down a lot easier than mild steel or the 6061 aluminum I've been using. But I will also say it is very damn messy. I had that stuff all over me when I went in last night. It's just all over the lathe bench and just going all over the place. If I decide to keep using it, we'll have to come up with something a little different to catch the material coming off of the stuff. But anyway, that's where we're at with that. When I go to turning it, I've got one little short showing it, but we may video just past maybe turning that thing down, giving you guys an idea of what's going on when I mention that. The game plan for this, at the end of the day, it is a 50cc saw. I think with the 45mm jug, it is, I think, over 50 cc's. I think it may be 52 and some change. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but putting it into a cc calculator, that's kind of what I come up with on it. But 104 roof's not bad. In my experience, these smaller saws, they perform a little better as far as in hard wood and actually in a work scenario where you're actually out working the saw and your chain's not like super crazy all the time, where you might need a little extra grunt to pull through the wood. And let's face it, if you're cutting firewood, you're normally in dirty wood and your chains ain't 100% all the time, or at least mine ain't anyway. I like the saws, they have a little extra grunt, and if I'm deciding to fall a tree with it, I don't want it hanging up and bogging down and just, just one big hot mess. So what my goal is I'd like to see the exhaust roof more along the lines of 106. To get there, I think what I need to do is clean up the squish band a little bit. I won't have to take much out of it, 10-15 thousandths or something. And then what we'll do is take another squish measurement, which should put it somewhere around 50 thou, I think. And then we'll pull our squish back off of the base of the cylinder by doing machine work and getting that desired exhaust roof. And then once I clean up that port and polish it, port timing should be right in that general area where I want it. And it won't be a super high compression build, but we'll probably be looking at 170, 175 psi maybe when we're done. Depending on how crazy I get with cutting material out of the squish band. We could cut extra material off of the base and cut a small pop-up into the piston. That'd give us a little more compression as well. That's something the average weekend warrior, the guy at home's not going to be able to do. But as far as the squish band and tightening the squish up, anybody can do this. I'd mentioned it in the last video. What you would do is just go one step further into disassembly. You'd remove your piston. You'd take the 4 crankcase bolts out of the bottom. They're very easily accessible. And you would take the top surface of that riser where the cylinder mates on, and you could block sand that down to get your desired squish. And if you want to go that extra step to do the combustion chamber work, I've done it on a many of saws and it works fine. You just have to take your time and do it slow. What I like to do is take an old piston and get it all polished up and looking nice where it's not going to scuff anything up. And I'll take sandpaper, usually PSA automotive sandpaper for a DA sander. It's adhesive backed. And I'll cut it out and adhere it to the top of the piston. You do have to change the paper out a few times depending on how far you're going. You'll pull out a thou or two with about every time you put that in, and you'll get a thou or two out of every piece of paper is what I'm saying. When the paper goes to clogging up, it doesn't cut as bad as good, and I'd advise you to stay away from really coarse paper. Stay with something like 220 or 320, and you won't mess up your cylinder. If you try to go to cut them with like 36 or 40 grit, some of the particles it pulls out are big enough to get in and get around the piston and scratch up the cylinder. I've taken some pretty far that way, up to about 30 thou without a problem. It will, in some cases, can leave the least little bit of like a little groove, not quite a groove, but like a little area around the cylinder, and it's due to the fact that the crown of your piston is always smaller than, say, the skirt. And what I like to do with that is I'll take a cartridge roll and I'll go around the top of the piston the piston you're using in the saw, and just kind of bevel the edge of the crown. And I've probably got, I don't know, half a dozen saws here done that way that's had the squish band sanded. And guys, I've really never had a problem out of it. So I'm making some pretty serious compression, and they seem to be a-okay. I can't guarantee something ain't gonna happen later on down the road once it gets some age on it, but again, this is just for your weekend warrior fire cutter. Nothing real serious. You can leave the squish band work completely out of it and just dial in your squish and go with what timing number you get there, and kind of call it a done deal. I know this is probably completely backwards from what you're used to seeing. You'll see a lot of guys will throw numbers out and say to set it here or there. On this little saw, unless you're just using it to cut cookies or to limb with or something, or unless you have one of those weird saws, and I get them here every now and then, that I had one here when I decked that riser. It was a highway cylinder I was using. I swear I think the Warhawk was about the same way, but take note, it was when I decked that riser, they ended up the roof around like 109 or 110 or something. That was 2 cylinders, and then most of the other ones I've done, they'll end up kind of where this one was at, is why I said I kind of expected it to end up around 104. But that's kind of the game plan. That's what we're going for. We're just going to clean up the squish band a little bit, and we'll pull our squish clearance off of the base of the cylinder. We'll do a goo gasket, you would call it, and should be a done deal on it. But that's kind of what we're going to get into this segment of the video, was getting our squish dialed in, and then maybe in the next one we can get into like the exhaust port or transfers or something. But I'll bring you guys back once I've got more to show. probably be one of the final cleanup passes. It was 45.0 millimeters on the last pass. I need to get it like it 44.9, 44.85, somewhere in that area to where there'll be a slip fit into the cylinder. Obviously you don't want it too loose, but you don't want to have to force it up on there either. This shit is messy. I've got a bird's nest back here. My trash can's full. It's snowing out. Need to empty my trash and clean all this up, bring a shop back in, and clean up the lathe bench. It's looking pretty daggone nasty. There's a little bird out here on the end. I've been shutting her down at, and I'll feed it by hand out to that. A lot of that bird's nest or rat's nest looking deal, more than likely the cutters I'm using, just old cheap stuff I picked up online or from Harbor Freight. I need to invest in some. I've got some high-speed steel blanks for this, but you got to be pretty knowledgeable to know how to actually grind those and get them right. So we may just pick us up some pre-made high-speed steel inserts. And take note, if you buy one of these, it's Chinese. I ain't gonna call it garbage, but it's made from the cheapest materials. They're just thrown together. You have to about go over it and tighten things up every time you machine something. But you know, this one was, I think it was a little over 900 bucks shipped with the door, and then I think I paid 60 bucks for that. And you're looking a little over $1,000 once it's said and done, and they can be had cheaper, but I opted for the better motor and stuff in this, and the metal gears, and if it's any better than the cheaper ones, I doubt it. But anyway, I'll bring you guys back when we get to actually doing some machining on the cylinder. There we go, guys. We've got a mandrel ready to go. Okay, guys, this part's kind of totally optional. It's up to you. I'd just like to clean the band up, flatten it just a little bit, and I'm going to do it by sanding just to show that you can and that it's okay. Obviously, you'd be doing it with a piston, or maybe if you have a wood lathe, you could make you a mandrel to go on a drill, which would probably be safer than the piston. Just to show you, I do have a mandrel here. I could put a cutter in and put in the vise and cut that out by hand. I'm just showing that you can do this, you know, just to do minimal cleanup and to remove minimal material. This thing's about polished. I had a little bit of oil on it, but it seemed it was causing it to gather debris, I guess. It was nothing bad, but this is totally dangerous. Do not copy this at all. Don't copy anything you see me do that's borderline dangerous or stupid. Like run at a super low speed. And what I like to do is just put a little pressure against it and turn. Obviously, if you're doing this with a drill and a piston, you can't really do that, but by putting that little bit of pressure and turning, it's getting around the whole circumference of the squish band. And you're not removing much material at a time. I like to take my air hose and blow it out. She's already starting to look a lot better than it was. That's actually the second time I've done it. I've done it once off camera, but hopefully you can see it shining in there. I can see it through the monitor, so I know you guys can see it. But I'm gonna sit and do that a few times, and you know, like I said, we'll pull minimal material out, but I feel it helps. Obviously, if you pull a bunch out, you're shrinking the size of the combustion chamber, and that really helps with compression, but we're not trying to do a super crazy build here on this. Okay guys, we took exactly 10 thousandths out of that band, and like I said, this is up to you. It ain't gonna make or break the build. Obviously, if you've got the lathe setting, you know, you're golden anyway, but we're barely squishing our solder now. 46 thou. If you remember, we had 36 thou to begin with. So what that means is I need to pull a good 20 thousandths off of the base. That's going to put us at 26 thou. That's going to move our port timing to that 106 area we wanted, and we'll do that, and I'll show you the cylinder set up on the lathe and everything, maybe making a pass, and then we'll come back and probably end this video with me showing the machine work. You'll probably see a little short clip of it before this, but that's all we took out of the band was 10 thousandths. You could take a lot more. It looks like there's room to take a lot, and looks like the saw would benefit from taking a lot out of it. How much, I don't know. You're running into spark plug clearance issues and plug thread. It's just one of them things, you just have to do it and find out, I guess. But we're gonna stop there at 10 thousandths. It's giving me my room to move things without cutting a pop-up. I could cut 30 off of the base and do a 10 thousandths pop-up, and we gain just a little more compression. We may do that, we may not. I'm kind of undecided on that, but anyway, I'm gonna get this off and get it set up on the lathe, and I'll bring you guys back then. Guys, I don't take very much at all on each pass. We're like 5 thou a pass, and I'd already touched off on that outer corner. It's actually the 3rd pass I've made. It'd be cool if we got the DSLR and got a still shot of those chips flying. If we had a power feed, that'd be possible, but I don't know. I'll try to figure something out. But this little cheap right hand side cutter, I've got it angled toward the tip, can get in that corner up next to the skirt. Kind of hard to watch it through this camera, but I try to keep the cross slide set up pretty tight. Obviously they get loose about every other thing you machine on these lathes, but where I'm just feeding that thing as slow as I can, and I'll show you when I'm done, and you guys have seen some of the ones I've done. It for a $900 Chinese lathe and some cheap cutters, we get a decent finish. I'd love to have a big industrial size lathe, but I ain't really got nowhere in there to put one. Maybe when we get YouTube rich, we'll build us a big huge shop over on the property. Something telling me I don't see that coming in the near future, but once we get this machine work done, I'll bring you guys back then. One thing I hadn't shown, we didn't take much off of this, but take note, pulling the gasket and then taking what we have off the base, we've shortened it, you know, 35 plus thousandths. I'd measured this, it still had enough room, but I did take about 20 thousandths off the bottom of this skirt. Some saws you have to, some you don't. You can just, usually your caliper, you'll be able to check depth with it. And when you're cutting your mandrel, just be sure to cut it long enough to where you can get in and trim the bottom of that skirt. But just something, you know, that one of them things that needs to be done on some saws. I just done it on this one just to be doing it, I guess. Just to be completely safe. Okay guys, so here's our finished product on the machine work. And remember, we just went minimal on the band, and I'm not going to do a pop-up or anything on this. I think that with the timing numbers and everything, I think she'll perform good enough. She'll be a little torquey, little zippy saw. I think you'll really enjoy it. But I'll put you guys back on the tripod and we'll wrap this one up. Alright guys, it's about time to wrap this part of the series up. I hope these ain't kind of boring you guys to death, or maybe I'm dragging it out too far, but I'm kind of just trying to get straight to the point in each video, but I tend to run my mouth a lot. But where are we at? If you'll remember, we pulled, it was a little over 10 thousandths out of the combustion chamber. That moved our squish from 36 thou up to 46 thou. So where we are at right now is 24 thousandths, which means we've actually lowered the ports in the cylinder 22 thousandths, which in this came out to around 2.5 degrees. Every saw is going to be different. Your rod ratio, the stroke of the saw, all of that's going to matter on how many thousandths is 1 degree. I see guys say that like 11, 12 thousandths is 1 degree. That kind of gets you in the ballpark, but like I said, a saw with 30 millimeter stroke and a saw with 40 millimeter stroke, they are going to differ a little bit. You know, it's just kind of common sense on it, or common builder sense, I guess. But anyway, we're at 106.5 on the exhaust port. The transfers are actually cracking like around 135 right now. That's horrible if you're a long blowdown fan, which, you know, it's still 28 degrees of blowdown, however you want to measure it. But and we're looking at 71.5 on the intake port. Like I said, it moved everything like 2.5 degrees, which is kind of what I was shooting for, 2 degrees. The 2.5 degrees will take it. And I hope that kind of makes sense to people. I know, depending on what channels you've watched and what builders you've watched, all this may be completely backwards from what you've been taught, but this is my way. This is what I know that this saw needs to perform the way that I want it to perform. What we're doing here is we're wanting a little saw to perform like a mid-range saw. You can go even further with the machining and things, and you know, you can do a carb upgrade on this, intake boot upgrade. There's so much you can do. You can actually make these things perform like a 70cc saw. No joke, it can be done. You know, they're an awesome platform for the hobbyist or, you know, builder. But anyway, the next part of this, we'll get into some grinding. I don't know if I'm going to piece it on out into 3 different sections, or just kind of do it all in one video, and that's kind of what I'm leaning toward. I mean, we're already at 3 parts, and then there's one little thing I videoed on this degree finder. I don't even know if I'll upload it or not, but yeah guys, that's where we're at. The next part of this, we'll get into the game plan with it. Things ain't going to be moved much. The intake and transfers, the exhaust port are merely just be widened and cleaned up and polished. Timing's about exactly where I would want it on it anyway. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Everybody stay safe, and y'all try to have a great day.